Okay. This is the February 9th, 2022 meeting of the Village of Millbrook Board of Trustees. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand. Remain standing for a minute. I'd like Matt to say a few words about Kathy Meyer.
Want to go over there?
Yeah, why don't you go to the podium so people can hear you on the camera.
Kathy Myers joined the Millbrook Fire Department Auxiliary in January 1978 as a charter member. She served as the first secretary of the auxiliary from 1978 to 1979. In May of 1982, Kathy joined the Millbrook Fire Department and the Millbrook Fire Department Rescue Squad. She served as the treasurer of the Rescue Squad for a total of 9 years and 18 and a half years as treasurer of the fire department. In May of 2007, Kathy became a life member of the Millbrook Fire Department, having served 25 years of active service. Sadly, we lost Kathy on January 31st.
Thank you, Matt. Please hold a moment of silence for her, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well done, Matt. Thank you. Appreciate it. Please be seated. Okay, sir, can you do the roll call of trustees, please?
Mayor Colby,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Contino, absent. Trustee Herzog,
Here.
Trustee Arbogast, absent. Trustee Doral.
Here. Thank you. Before I go too far, I want to make sure that everyone knows, posted on social media, the fact that we received 50 more test kits from the county, and we'll be distributing those this Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday at noon outside the Village Hall. On a first come, first served basis, one per household, please. And we do need you to show proof of residency in the Village of Millbrook. These kits are only for residents of the Village of Millbrook. Any questions about that? Okay. Good. Let's proceed with the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the minutes approval from the prior meeting. Sarah posted the draft of the minutes in the last meeting on the website. Any questions or corrections need to be made from those minutes?
I have none.
Can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make that
In
motion.
a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the vouchers. The vouchers for this month have a total from the general fund of $71,561, from the water fund $9,652, from the sewer fund $24,681, and from Millbrook restorations $20,350 for a total of $126,245. Any questions about the vouchers? Knowing that you just received the details today, and you'll be looking at the details before you sign them later on. Question about those? The Millbrook restoration I discussed the last time, this is the first 50% payment to the owners for the upgrade they're making to the rear of the building. Okay? That's $20,000 plus $350 to do an appraisal of the work. When I look over the vouchers, I had a couple of questions for Sarah, which I'll take offline tomorrow. Just for me to understand some things that are going on. In general, I think we're in pretty good shape. The deltas we've gotten are rather simply continuations of what we talked about last month. Any questions from the audience about the voucher activity? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the vouchers?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And here's the summary detail, which I reviewed and have signed. I can pass this to you now, people to look at that now, we'll let the meeting welcome to you. Let's see. Before we go on to the general meeting, I want to make a request to department heads to do a better job of getting the charts to Nicole, ideally by Monday of the week of the meeting. She was still treading water this morning, trying to get the vouchers out and get the charts together. So I appreciate the help of all the department heads to do what you can to get her the charts by Monday at the latest. She said Friday requested, but Let's be realistic, so Monday, please, all right? Any problems with those charges generally? I know there were some problems this month, but any systematic reasons? One reason we moved the meeting from Tuesday to Wednesday was to give you guys an extra 24 hours, so help us out here. If you see a problem, give me a heads up so I can handle it beforehand, all right? Okay, next then would be an update from the legislature by Deidre.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
David House, Legislative Legislator. Just a couple things, Mark, that I have for you guys. I know in the fall I told you over and over again, and I'm going to say it again, about the Learn, Play, Create grant. If you remember, it was funded in the fall of 21 from the county, and the funds were exhausted by December. And then in our 22 budget, we put $500,000 in, and then by budget amendment at budget time, for budget night, we put another $500,000 in to fund it to $1 million. And that cycle is now open. So again, it's for youth, for a 501c3, nonprofit, and it could be for sports, it could be for theater, camp. I know in the fall, Mike and I had emailed back and forth about a Boy Scout thing, so you want to circle around with that again.
That's awesome, okay, all right.
We can certainly, send an application forward. So just keep in mind, any not-for-profit for youth, specific for youth, and of course the libraries are already able to apply, and Millbrook Library is already funded. So it's a one-time funding source for now. So if you've got the money in 21, you cannot reapply yet for 22. And the other thing I want to talk to you guys about is tomorrow night at the legislative committee meeting, we're going to be discussing and debating a resolution to fund a new county-wide communication center for fire, ambulance, EMS, police. Right now, none of our departments, my understanding is, speak to each other. So if you have an emergency, the sheriff's office may not be using the same communication device as the ambulance. So it's a 3-year project. We're starting to fund phase 1. It's a $10 million fund for the first phase. And what it will do is put all the county departments, so for instance, like if there's a water main break in the county, Department of Public Works can't speak to anybody. They're on their own channel. It will allow them to interface with, again, fire, ambulance, and police. They'll put the sheriff and the state police in contact with each other in communication, and it will share all the communication. So I don't know currently how the Village of Millbrook does their communication. If you can,
How's it compared to 911? When we call it 911, that's in the county.
Correct. So you call 911, and then, so for instance, you call 911, and you have an emergency at your house. They will look and say, okay, there's 5 cars in the area, 5 sheriffs in the area. Does someone out? With this new system, they will be able to pinpoint, Deputy Herzog is 2 miles out, his closest, let's send him, which they don't have that capability now. So it's actually a new state-of-the-art, so it's an analog system now, it's going to be completely digital. And I think the county has not many towers, but it will upgrade to 19 towers. And I was shown a map of current communications, or I should say lack of. And you look at the northeast portion of Dutchess County, and it's amazing how it's a color map, right? Like purple is good communication and green is poor. And a large portion of it was green. But with this new system, almost the whole county turns purple. Where, and with this enhancement, the county will be purchasing one time for every fire department, for every, not for every member, but for every fire member that has a PAC, they will be purchasing a one-time radio for them to come online with this communication system.
So Ted, what does this mean for you? Is this news to you, or?
No, I'm aware of it. They're working on an upgrade to the communication systems, a digital radio system, which will improve on their existing setup. Like Deidre said, increased number of towers for better coverage, and my understanding of it was that they're going to purchase radios for each piece of apparatus and for officers. And they, like right now, all of our members have portable radios. The county would not pay to replace all of those. We have, I don't know, probably 50 or better portable radios out. So the county's plan would pay for apparatus, officers, our base station here at the firehouse, And then if we want to buy additional portables for our interior and exterior members of the village, would have to put that bill.
But you could
But
also,
it's a fraction of the cost.
and you know, if your water department, your highway department wants to get on the system, again, you can purchase the individual component so that your departments are on the same community. I don't know how you do it now, but so we're gonna, I said, we're gonna discuss and debate tomorrow night, phase 1 funding.
It's a 3-year program, you said.
Three-phase program. The first phase, the first $10 million will be obviously doing most of the tower work. And then phase 2 will be purchasing and phase 3 will be testing. It's about a 3-year, it's about 3 years till it's on.
So Ted, if you have your officers and your primaries on this new digital system, how they communicate with those who are on the old system?
We'd have to have 2 parallel systems for a short period of time.
Until you get everybody on the same digital system. So eventually, everyone would want to have in the fire department on the same digital system, with their own handheld.
Interoperability is a big buzzword in the emergency services community, and it speaks to exactly what you're talking about, different agencies being able to communicate without having to have county relay a message because one of us is on a high band radio and the other's on a
Yeah, so it sounds like we make a request that we have a long-term plan to get everybody the ability to.
Right. That's why I'm trying to give you the heads up. And
Right.
if anyone had any, well, obviously tomorrow night I have to vote on the first, get voted on the committee. So if anyone had a huge issue or saw something that I could see, I would love to hear some feedback. But to me, it makes sense, right? To have, it's going to enhance emergency services countywide.
All right, good.
just to add, the problem we've had with radio upgrades, and there have been a number of them in the last 25 plus years that I've been here, is that the county rarely, if ever, foots the bill for any of the hardware. They build and they purchase and build the towers and the network, and then the departments are left on their own to purchase radios for their apparatus and their members, which is an enormous expense. And so, like right now, our radios that we're operating with right now, we purchased in 2008, 2009. So they're approaching 15 years old, which is an extraordinary service life for a portable or mobile radio. They're completely obsolete, and something that I was preparing to budget for in the next 2 to 3 years. A wholesale replacement of everything, which would be something on the order of $110,000 to $120,000. So just came at the right time if the county's offering.
You go off for 3 years?
Yeah, no. I mean, everything we have is working, and this is
Okay.
it's going to be helpful for us because this is the first time since 1991 that the county has come and said, we're going to pay for part of your upgrade.
All right, good.
A
All right.
portion of that will be the ARP dollars. So
All right.
that's really all I have for you, unless you guys have something.
Yeah, so I want to follow up on the discussion we had last time about the county converting the Bennett College property to green space. And there was some article in the newspaper about like 4 spaces on the same thing.
Correct, your agency partnership grant.
Yeah, so the impact to us in the village is that property comes off the tax rate. Right? So I asked Sarah to go figure out the 32 acres. There's quite a few, parcels in there. There's a total of $7,400 of taxes that are coming off our tax rate. So to the county, it's not a big deal. I'm sure that whatever the cost is for them to buy the property and reduce their tax rates by that's quite a nit. But for us, $7,400 on a $1 million tax levy is 0.7%. So what that means is against our 2% tax levy, we just consume 0.7% of it, right? So the only thing I would ask is there a way for the county to more of a heads up for us for those kind of things? And thankfully, you brought it to us last month, so that we're not in May coming out with Sarah and saying, why is our tax rate sometimes we're going to on your food?
Well, I think you're going to have a year lag because I don't think that they're going to close on it in this fiscal year. So I think that's going to buy you some time. But I also saw in the package that you sent a letter of support for the project.
I said letter of support?
For the grant.
Oh, for the grant, sure.
Yes,
Oh, absolutely.
right. So
no, the grant is different from, the grant is to them, $500,000 so they can do the conversion to the park.
right, the agency partnership grant.
The taking off the tax rolls is where we end up having to raise everyone's also property taxes by 0.7% to offset this reduction in our tax rates.
So how many acres are on the tax roll?
was 32
32
acres,
to
right? I bet you have parcels across the entire thing, right?
Okay.
It should look like 2 pages worth.
Okay, so I'll get together with Sarah and talk to her and figure it out.
No, it is what it is. My only question is the way we get the headlights back to those kind of changes, because I'm sure the county level doesn't mean anything. It's a nit as far as the overall asset value of the county. But for us down here in the village, we're pension pennies trying to make ends meet. $74 is a lot of money per year,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you talked to Gary about this, but the town was saying that, I don't know what their actually is for those parcels, but the same thing will happen to them.
Right.
They'll see a reduction in their tax base based on that move.
Okay.
All right.
So bring it forward.
I did talk to George Whalen, and there is something that's been offered up by Kevin Bachman, which was called pilot payment in lieu of tax, which is basically where I go hat in hand and begging to cut us a break or something. I don't know. So I'm learning about how to respond to this, but right now we've got, you know, a slight hole in our tax base.
If you want information on pilots, I'm certainly happy to bring it for you.
All right, fine.
But
Yeah, we'll solicit your help for that.
yeah, no problem.
But in general, I just would like to know that there's some way we get more headlights and that kind of stuff, just so we have some way to prepare for it.
Right. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions about that, Peter? No?
I just have a question about one other thing, if possible. The municipal improvement grants, that in the past we were able to access in order to make physical improvements in the water treatment plant and in doing a project for municipal water as well in the village in 2013. Is that going to be dedicated to anything in particular that you're aware of? Because when I talked to Dutchess Planning about 2 weeks, a month ago, they were unsure of whether the legislature was going to renew the funds, and if so, would it be directed in a particular fashion, like learn, play, and create grants?
Right. So I know there was just what we call MIG.
Right, yeah.
I know they were just funded, I think in December, we had a funding opportunity. I will certainly look into it, and I will reach out to the Commissioner of Planning and ask him specifically. There's no request this month from the legislature for funding of the municipal notification grant, but I will ask him when he's planning on bringing a resolution forward to us.
And you're thinking about using that as far as what? What will that be?
On 2 previous occasions, we received, a sizable grant, the $200,000 that was paid for improvements at the water treatment plant back in 2016, and in 2013 we got a $66,000 grant that paid for us to be able to purchase equipment that allowed us to be able to investigate all the sewer pipes,
Camera,
and everything else, and both of those were remarkably great.
Useful, yeah.
And useful. And they were specifically under the topic of shared services grant, because we did that in conjunction with the town, and but the focus of that particular fund, I think, may be changing because after a while you can only have so many shared service grants.
Right. And that was part of the bringing in the municipal information grant. And I can tell you, it's a very popular program, and historically it's been fully funded, so I don't see any reason that it wouldn't be funded, and I know in the budget we have funded it. It's just a matter of when planning will open up the process for applications.
And when the money is going to be primarily directed, just, in terms of the focus.
Right.
That seems to be the question.
Okay.
Yes.
And the other thing I was, I'm not sure of the name of the fund, but I don't think it was under learn, create category, but I know that there was a fund that was going to be $1 to $2 million where the fire departments throughout, specifically fire departments, could begin to look at purchase of equipment beyond radios that Matt's talking about. He was talking about that might be on a grant basis, so that fire departments.
I think that might be going away with this new communication system because it's such a large build out. So I'm not aware of that grant opportunity specifically, and I think that might have been in conjunction with the communication.
Okay. Peter, any questions? No? Any questions from the audience? Oh, Mike, are you finished?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next we've got Karen McLaughlin is going to come give a year-to-date performance of the finances. Now, these are charts that were posted last time. They're on our website for those who are looking online. And we should all have a copy here.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, this is a little bit easier when I can show the charts, but
Yeah, okay.
that's okay. The global COVID-19 pandemic has certainly taken center stage. Volatility in financial markets has accelerated since the discovery of the Omicron variant in November. While Omicron introduces an added layer of uncertainty to growth outlook, economists generally expect the variant to have a more muted impact on the global economies than initially feared. As we move forward, it is important to create and maintain stability in other areas of our life. Having a local government that is stable, reactive, and progressive thinking brings a sense of security in these challenging times. So my first chart, and I'll just explain it to you, kind of goes into equipment, supplies, and services. The chart represents equipment, supplies, and services purchased to date. It is important to point out that snow removal is part of the highway department, and there's still much more winter to go and a lot of ice, and street maintenance. Included in the general administrative are the costs for legal, engineering, insurance, and the village hall expenses. All relatively proportionate. The employee benefits target is closer to the cap because we recently paid the annual payment to New York State Retirement. So I did prepare a chart for payroll, but I will just go into saying that the below chart shows the salary budget versus 14 pay periods of 26, and there are 12 pay periods remaining, or 47% left of this fiscal year. And I went through the departments, the Mayor and Village Board with 72% left, the front office 47, police 46, planning, building, and zoning 53, and streets 49. So relative to the 6-month period, which ended in November 31st, but included the December bills, the salary line items are looking okay.
Yeah, they're right on target, basically.
They're right on target.
No room for hiccups.
So revenue, again, the chart that's presented shows revenue received at the 6-month mark. Village taxes almost look good as they were collected all at once in June. We are made whole in April. Unpaid taxes in November were sent to Dutchess County for re-levy. The first payment of the mortgage tax was surprisingly higher and almost what we budgeted for the entire year. The fire contract for fire protection from the town of Washington is paid in February, so we haven't received that yet.
Actually, it's paid partially in February and the rest in March.
Okay.
Right? It's usually paid in March. We have changed the contract, asking if they could in February, and then pay the rest in March. So we'll see what happens this
Yeah,
month.
this will be the first year we're doing that.
Yeah, first year, yeah. It used to be not until March.
Okay, and that'll definitely help the cash flow
Good.
situation
Yeah.
towards the end of the fiscal year. For all revenue, we need to monitor trends and observe over the next several months.
Did you see any issues in the revenues? When I looked at the operating expense report today, I thought we were in pretty good shape.
I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
I think, like I said, we actually were quite surprised with the mortgage tax,
Yeah.
with the increase in the mortgage tax,
Okay.
and the sales tax is doing pretty good.
Okay.
Planning, building, and zoning fees are up because I think there's a lot of building activity going on in the village. So I went through the water and the sewer funds, and we're right about at the 50% mark for revenue received for both the water and the sewer. Water and sewer funds are self-sustaining, meaning they are funded by user fees paid quarterly. This makes the revenue charts for water and sewer easier to read month to month than the general.
Okay. I'm still worried about the cash flow for the water. We're going to talk about that during the budget process, which is, do we need to raise the rates this year to give ourselves a buffer so that next year when we get into the period we had, what was that, November?
Yeah,
We find ourselves
the ban
shortchanged because bills come due and we don't have the revenue flow in yet to cover.
Yeah, I think what happened in November was more of a timing issue, that we had that the big bond payment, principal payment that was due, and.
Which will be due next year,
Right.
right?
So, but I think when we work with Scott, I think we'll sit and go through all of the revenue and expenses and.
All right, I always be thinking about the need to have a buffer there so we don't get into a cash flow problem. We did. Well, actually, we were lucky because we had money left over from the
Bedrock.
bedrock well account. So we moved that over there, which we can do.
Right.
But now that's gone, so I think there's 10,000 left. Most of that's gone. So next year we're gonna have a plan in place beforehand, so we're not in the same position. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right, good.
So, again, I just want to reiterate that this is a team effort, and going into the winter is like uncharted waters, or ice. As the water and sewer treatment plant, the collection and distribution system infrastructure ages, repairs and replacements must be in our focus. What we can do is diligently monitor, do studies, and anticipate our future needs. Doing this will allow us to budget, forecast, and prepare for future growth. An update of the American Rescue Plan funds, we received the first payment of $72,102, and we will receive the second payment in July of 2022. And we plan to spend that on the retaining wall, which we will get to later on in the agenda.
Right.
And I'll stay around for that
Good, thanks.
discussion. As this brings us to the importance of preparing and planning, the next budget season, 2022-23, will start this month with a review of the current budget and scheduling department budget meetings. The tax cap increased from 1.23 to the full 2% allowable, which is good news. The Village of Millbrook Board and staff are committed to assist you, our residents, to fully understand and engage in where your tax dollars are spent and how your water and sewer fees are supporting your facilities. Thank you. I just want to also remind you that this was a halfway mark, a 6-month mark, and as we have 2 more months of bills, I would again like to work with the department heads, go over the revenues, the expenses, and then the budget spreadsheets will be sent out next week to all department heads.
All right, good. I think that the key request to the department heads is headlights. If you see a problem coming, let us know early, all right? Like Bob, you guys have been using salt like up to the zoo here. If you see a problem with chemical supplies that you're going to be over budget, let us know earlier as opposed to later, all right? And the rest of the same thing. So headlights are better for us, so we can get a chance to react and prepare.
Yeah, I think we made a lot of progress last year when we paid back the interfund loans that we had.
Right.
And I think it's important to not get into that position this year.
Another reason why I want to make sure we got the right rates in place for this budget,
Yeah.
this next fiscal year.
So I definitely will involve Scott.
All right, good. Now, Sarah sent out the proposed schedule for the budget. Department heads all received that. Any problems with that schedule? Ted, you guys are okay with that? Okay, good. So we're going to do the same thing we did last year, which is basically 1 meeting per department head. We combine 2 together. We go through line by line with your proposed roll-up, and we massage it all together. The only difference we're going to have this year is instead of having individual spreadsheets that we're going to combine together, you're going to have a format that you want to give out to each of them, more like your own handwritten version, and then we'll have only 1 master sheet. All right, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think last year we ran into having a few too many links
Yeah.
going into
That was the first year.
a master sheet.
You're
So,
right.
yeah, I think we're going the
We're
right
learning.
track. We're on the right track, so.
Any questions about that? Either the department heads or the people in the office?
And the meetings will be here. Just,
Oh, you're right, Matt, here, so the calendar is good for us, so thanks so much for doing that, Matt. Okay?
So I look forward to working with you guys, so just let me know if you need me to.
All right, nice analysis, appreciate you taking the time.
Thank
Thanks to you, Sarah, too, So, no questions about that, you guys are okay? Okay. No, okay, good. Okay, Ted and Matt. The fire rescue.
Matt says he's gonna be quiet tonight.
Oh, really? Is that a promise or a threat?
You're welcome.
All right.
January's a little less busy than December. 71 total calls, 13 automatic alarms, 5 motor vehicle accidents, 46 EMS calls, 1 hazmat call, 4 structure fire calls, 1 due to event, 1 smoke condition. Let's see, the NDP paid unit went out 52 times, the volunteer ambulance went out 7. And mutual aid other companies 3 times for fire, 4 for EMS. And we had mutual aid received here once for fire call and 3 times for EMS calls.
Is that an improvement?
It's
It's only 1 month.
Yeah, and it's not a big statistical sample, but it's a step in the right direction.
Okay. So first, questions about the report from data. Anybody have questions about that? Peter?
No.
So can you give us an update of this meeting we had with the Unionville supervisor and
So we
fire
met with Tim
commissioners?
and Vicki, and I met with a couple of commissioners from Unionville Fire District and the town supervisor and Dana Smith from the Dutchess County Department of Emergency Response last week. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so Unionville is taking steps to reduce the amount of mutual aid that they request from us for EMS, lower the number of times each month that they pull our paid unit for advanced life support calls. And they're doing that a couple of different ways. The major one is that they've gotten a handshake agreement with MStar/Empress, who is their provider, to add another unit during the hours that they don't have paid coverage. Right now, their paid coverage is daytimes, Monday through Friday. They are expanding that to Saturday, Sunday beginning this year, and also, like I said, they're having a backup unit from their provider that kind of floats in their area between Unionville, East Fishkill, to back up their volunteer ambulance during the hours they don't have a paid unit, which hopefully will reduce the times that our unit is called for paramedic service because of that not having one service. So this is the fact that we're down from I think 11 last month to 4 this month.
Yeah.
Is a testament. Well, hopefully it's a step in the right direction.
Just so for background, there was actually complaints from our people about the number of times that our volunteers, as well as their paid service, is called out of the town of Washington to service Unionville because they don't have 24/7 paid service like we do. And actually, my recommendation, request to Unionville was to get to 24/7 as soon as you can. They said they were doing this 2 things, going to 12/7, and also doing this interim step thing you just mentioned.
Correct.
And they asked for a few months for us to see what the benefit of that was. So we're going to wait to see.
Yeah, they have a couple of stepping stones they have to get over in order to go to 24/7 coverage. Their ambulance certificate of need doesn't permit that at the moment. They have to apply for a temporary CON and then expanded permanent one later in order to go to 24/7 coverage. That's a state thing. The state Department of Health authorizes how many hours they're allowed to do that. And it's not in place right now because they've never had it before. So.
Yeah, in general,
It's kind of a big hassle. It's a hassle.
it's a hassle, it's expensive. Also, there's a problem with just the support. The NDP has already given us notice about the increase of COVID cases affecting their staff. They put us on notice that they may have to, they haven't done it yet.
No, not that I'm aware.
Maybe we're going to make it through without having impacted, but they may have to cut back support because the people are out with COVID. We may have missed that bullet. But the other thing is just the fact that Unionville, like we also experienced a few years ago, has seen a reduction in their available volunteers to do the support. So they don't have many people available, and they're going through the same process we are, which is basically having to bite the bullet to say, at some point, we got to go 24/7.
Yep.
And
It's
meanwhile,
a big step to take both functionally for the ambulance corps and the town, and also financial evidence. So those are 2 hurdles they have to overcome.
and meanwhile, I got a call from the fire commissioner in Stanfordville asking if we were willing to share the 24/7 service we get from NDP because they are looking to go to paid service. They've got the money in the budget, but they can't find a company that's willing to staff it. So the staffing of EMS, paid EMS, is also a decreasing commodity. So.
Correct. And Stanford is in a little different situation than we are because their call volume is so much lower. They don't have the revenue. That's why it's not attractive for paid service to contract with them because their cost would be so much higher because of the lower revenue from billing from calls.
Okay.
We're Millbrook and the town of Washington is kind of right on the tipping point of being profitable. So it's good that our cost for the contract is as low as it is, because it could be a lot worse. If our call volume was lower, you'd see a big difference. We have just enough calls to.
As low as it is, it's $400,000 a year.
No, and that's a huge nut to crack.
Although Stanfordville said he had $500,000 in the budget, but they don't do it.
Right. And I think their contract is going to be considerable more
Oh, yeah.
if you want to do that.
You're going to try to report to me the 911 response times for EMS?
Yes.
Okay, I'll wait to see how that works. And LoSAP, I gave the package to Mike to look at and sign. Peter needs to sign it as well. Vicki has some questions for you.
I spoke to her. Yeah.
What were the questions about?
Just a couple of the items of paperwork that were in there. There was an extra copy of the packet of the list of names, which we'll remove before it goes out. It was just a spare set of sheets.
All right, fine.
And a couple of questions about the points tally and how it works with
Oh, okay.
the department or their status changes.
All right, so Peter, when you look at it first time, you have questions, make sure you let me or Ted know about it. So Steve, you do this every year. Okay, anything else?
I don't think so.
Questions for Ted? No? Any questions from the audience for Ted? All right, thanks. I do have a question for Matt since he's here. What's the story with the parking lot lights?
They're fixed.
They're working?
Yeah.
Congratulations, nice job.
So that's a replace.
All right, good. Very good. Nice job, thank you.
Should I pick that up tomorrow? Is that good? The packet?
Let me see when Peter can look at it. If you can look at it tonight, fine. I'll talk to him about it tonight. If he can send it
Let me know.
down.
No worries.
I'll let you know. All right? Okay, Officer Witt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have two reports this evening, one for January last month and then one for our year end for 2021.
Okay.
January 2022.
Is it January 1st? Okay.
Yeah, we get that
Okay.
one out of the way.
Yep.
94 incidents, 15 traffic tickets, 10 parking tickets, 3 auto accidents, 2 disabled vehicles, and 2 each of parking and vehicle complaints. Assisted state police once and sheriff's office once, fire department 7 times, EMS 8 times, did 3 court details for the town of Washington, and Millbrook Central School District 9 times. That's including some special details and drills, fire drills and lockdown drills. Just 1 criminal mischief and 1 fraud as for criminal activity last month. And December was also kind of a low month.
Yeah, I see
It's
that.
been unbearably cold, so maybe people are just not out
All right.
doing crimes. Public service, 2 suspicious activities, 5 burglar alarms, 2 properties, lost and found, 2 welfare checks, 1 lockout, 2 civil complaints. Community policing, assistant citizen once, 2 property checks, which are open doors and things that we find while we're checking businesses and buildings in the building. 10 school checks, 2 foot patrols, and I don't know what that number 1 at the bottom is. Probably.
Okay.
But as for January, it's relatively uneventful, which I know the general public and the board likes.
Yes.
For us, we don't mind doing work, but it's a good time.
Yeah, with no rest, things like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Any questions on January?
No?
All right. So as for the year 2021, we had a total of 1,529 incidents reported, which is up from 2020, which had 1,180. So
Is that right?
yeah, a little bit, about 350 more calls in 21 than 20.
It's quite an increase.
Well, 20, I believe, was a little low, actually.
Is that right?
With all the COVID stuff going on,
Oh, yeah, sure.
people being out, not traveling,
Good point.
So I believe the year before, I believe 2019 was close to 1,500.
Was that right? Okay, fine. Okay.
I'm not going to read all
Yeah,
of
you
them.
need to go through all of these.
Yeah, I was gonna
Anything that strikes you here?
No, it seemed to have been a relatively average year. We average anywhere from 12 to 20 arrests in a year. Last year we were right there at 12. Traffic tickets, 109, parking tickets, 125. Anything, I mean, we did have some, for the police activity stuff, disorderly conducts, these are some of the fights, some of the people yelling and screaming in the street, things like that. That was pretty high. It was 26. It's one every other week. 23 domestic incidents, 20 larcenies.
Yeah, we had the juvenile activities this summer, yeah.
Those larcenies, a lot of those were from that one stretch of like 2 nights where we had all those car break-ins.
Yeah.
Criminal mischief, 13, and orders of protection were up this year, but so were the number of domestics. So those are usually kind of tied hand in hand. Public service-wise, we had 19 mental health incidents last year. That's kind of increased for us. Suspicious activities, normal. Burglar alarm 66 or 62, foil 66. Nothing else really jumps out as above average. The community policing section is kind of a new section for us with the updates from the state and things like that. Again, 48 school checks. We had gotten back into the schools back in, I think, November doing those.
Yeah, just started off, and here you go.
So that's why that number is a little bit low. House checks, which is, when people go out of town for the winter or whatever, we offer the service of checking on their residents while they're out of town for extended. This year we also, Officer Aloisio was able to be certified for car seat installations. She got the training through the village, through the town of Fishkill, but we're able to use that same training here, and she started doing that late last year. Other than that, any questions for 2020?
Questions? Anybody in the audience have questions? Good.
I think we're working with the rescue squad currently because they have some unspent funds from the New York State car seat program. And Officer Aloisio is working with Laura Palmer to see if some of that can be transferred over to our department to use.
That should be given out to people.
Yeah, to either purchase car seats or for the programs or things like that.
All right, good.
So,
is that widely known, that car seat?
what's that?
Is that known? Is that on your Facebook or anything?
It isn't right now because it's still kind of in its infancy. People do call, and when they do, I refer them to Officer Aloisio. But I'm sure in the future we'll be able to partner up with the Sheriff's Office, because I know the Sheriff's Office partners with the state police. When they do their car seat checks out of Troop K, we may be able to hop in it with them also.
That's not a bad idea, just to post something on your police Facebook page to say that you are certified.
Right.
Chuck Kelly is certified to provide that kind of support.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
I just know because my mom went down to Troop K,
Oh yeah, because they had a program this year. Right.
So, like I said, it's still kind of in its infancy here, and Officer Aloisio is trying to navigate through getting that kind of set up before we, I don't want to say before we go to public with it, but
I should probably take advantage of that, because every time I have one grandson with the car seat's going to be faced forward, those are faced backwards, they make the switch. I'm always that man.
And those laws are always changing, so she's
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I had 3 kids that could face forward, and then the last one's supposed to face backwards.
Yeah, I got quite a difference in my two, so it's obvious, but just to get it to pick, one way versus the other is not a simple, straightforward thing to do. So.
I believe that's all I have.
No, it's not. You're going to talk about the proposed new officer.
Oh.
Right? Yeah. So, you want to give an overview first, or you want to do it?
What's that?
Do you want to give the overview of what's going on here? The background, what estimate it is?
Well, we're seeking approval from the village board to hire an additional officer. Over the past 5 years since I was full-time, I've been having trouble filling vacancies, short-term emergency vacancies during the day shift. Officer Aloisio steps up most of the time, Officer Del Giudice very often. But we don't have a deep enough roster really for daytime coverage when I need to take time, whether it's sick time or vacations are planned, but things that come up as an emergency, and we're looking to bring someone else into the roster who has more availability to be able to fill those vacancies.
Yeah, actually, the situation is that, just as background, we have a police force that consists of 1 full-time officer in charge, Jared Whittier, and then 5 part-time officers, right? And we operate 13 shifts a week, 8 hours per shift, 24 hours. It's 2 shifts, Monday through Saturday, and 1 shift on Sunday, is how we're staffed, right? Now, Officer Witt is primarily a, Monday to Friday, 8 hours during the day shift. The problem we have is that the other 5 part-time officers, most of them have other jobs. So, as a full-time employee, he gets vacation, he gets sick days, he gets personal days, and when he's using those days, it's very difficult to get officers to cover for him. So we're looking for a person, found a guy, who's actually, he's working in the Bronx on a 12-hour shift, night shift, 14 days a month, I think you said?
Yep.
Right? Mr. Roman, and he'll be a candidate that can actually fill these day shifts when Officer Witt either is on vacation or needs to take a sick day or a personal day or whatever. And so as a backup, that's something that we really need to, because otherwise you go through this machination of trying to get people to backfill for you, you move your schedule, they move their schedules, and it doesn't always work out.
Right.
Hoping to fix this problem, that's the reason for the proposal, right?
Yes, sir.
So you got this guy, is Officer Bill Ricci,
Yep.
that we interviewed. His experience is fully trained. He's got good references from the people that you checked with.
Yes, sir.
We're proposing a 6-month probationary period to try him out, right? 6 months. We're offering him to start at the salary of Matt Taney, who was the last officer to be hired, $21 an hour. Officer in charge is estimated the cost of getting fully up to speed is $2,000 for uniform, belt, all those kind of things, something for pistol, whatever.
Right, which most of which will turn into assets for the village.
That you can keep later.
Right, the gun, the belt, things like that. Really, the vest and the uniforms are the only things that can't be reused or reissued. But when I started 5 years ago, we started issuing equipment from the village, and because prior to that, all of our officers were purchasing their own equipment. And this way, we now have a standardized equipment that everybody has.
That we keep if they leave.
That we keep
Yeah.
when they leave. So now we own this, and as eventually we'll lose people to retirement or full-time jobs or things like that, we'll be able to maintain that, and then the people we hire after that, it won't be a $2,000 bill to swallow. It may just be a $700 or $800 bill to swallow.
So any questions about that proposal?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, Peter?
How many days or shifts do you anticipate? I know it's hard to think about, but how much do you think you'll be working in the 6 months?
So first off, they'll be a part-time officer, and they are limited to an average of 20 hours a week over a 1-year span, okay? But there will be weeks that hopefully he takes the full 40 hours that you're on vacation, for example.
Right.
And they won't work anything, right?
But that's not to limit the people that are already here with seniority either.
Okay, true.
You
That's
know,
right.
like Officer Aloisio and Del
If
Judas,
they can
both
fit
have
that
both also have daytime availability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, you mentioned the 6 months probation. It's usually a year.
What would you recommend?
A year.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, Officer Taney, Del Judas, and Aloisio, the last 3 hires all did a 1-year probation.
So if they're on probation for a year, we can't go do an assessment for 6 months, right? If things aren't working out?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
All right.
And then in that 1 year or 6 months, I mean, I could see him picking up 4 or 5 shifts in a month.
Is that right? Okay.
So,
All right, so that's what I'm talking about.
additionally, he doesn't need to be field trained like Aloisio and Del Judas were. They were fresh out of academy. This guy already has his academy. So he'll do a limited amount of field training, basically familiarization with the village, our policies, procedures, and report writing systems, which he is familiar with the report writing systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
I've already talked to Deputy Mayor Contino and Trustee Arbogast, they're okay with this. All right. Any questions or concerns from the audience here about this proposal? Yes?
I just have a question. So he's not going to be a 40-hour-week employee,
Correct, he'll be a part-time employee, just like that.
basically as you need him.
That's
Not necessarily scheduled. Because if you call in sick and he's in the Bronx, how's that going to work out?
Well, we're not, all of our eggs aren't going into his basket, he's just one more into the roster. Yeah, we already have dedicated employees that do change their schedule to help us out, but sometimes they can't, and maybe a third person who, on a 14-day-a-month schedule, it gives me great availability for him.
Yeah, he won't be always available, as you just pointed out, but when he's available, he'll be a good asset to supplement.
The way our officers work is we're budgeted as a department of hours per week. So I mean, in essence, we could have 15 people on the roster and we're still only working 112 hours a week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we hire Officer Belusi on probationary period. Need a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good.
Excellent.
So you have to see, I guess, Sarah, how do we go make the offer? What do we do from here?
Well, there's all sorts of paperwork and stuff.
Okay, so we'll meet tomorrow to talk about what paperwork that is, get that ball rolling.
Yeah.
Okay,
Speed signs.
yes, how's
I
that
knew
going?
that was coming.
How's that going?
The clerk has mentioned to me that we've reached out again and we're still waiting.
Okay. So these are speed signs that we proposed 6 months ago that we wanted to buy, using money that's in the consolidated trust fund account. So it's not going to come out of the budget. $5,000. And the order was put in months ago. For some reason, we can't get the company to come through with it. The only one communication I had with the company was the salesman called me and said, "Are you so interested in buying those speed signs?"
Right.
Which is after we put the order in, so maybe that's not a good omen. All right, anything else?
I don't have anything.
Thank you. Okay, Bob. Yes. Highway report.
Okay. We removed the Christmas decorations, removed the large tree from Franklin Avenue, and continued pickup of the residents' Christmas trees, which is still ongoing.
Okay. Well, there's no time limit on it, right?
No, there is.
That'll teach you.
We rebuilt it, the pictures, we rebuilt a frame that was rotted that holds the calcium tank on the new sidewalk tractor. All work was done in-house by Jeff and Darren.
Yeah, that's a neat before and after
You
picture.
can see those photos where that's what salt does, to metal. And on the right is the new frame that they basically built. Also, we had a burner repair done at Village Hall. 2 of the steam pipes cracked, and had that taken care of very quickly.
This was the old burner, right?
Yes.
Not the one we replaced last year.
No, not
Right.
the burner. Continuously filled potholes, cleared catch basins of built up snow, cleaned out the main drain on Franklin Avenue that was clogged with ice. We had, now this is updated, because this report went in on Monday. We now have 9 snow and ice incidents for a total of 14 so far this winter. Now that doesn't include follow-ups. When snow melts or the ice melts and we have to go out again to re-salt the roads. I don't count those as new incidents. We cleaned and painted 2 of the truck bodies. Not things that aren't on here because again, the last 2 days aren't on here. We did a catch basin repair on Deneen. We also had a bathroom repair done at the Village Hall. We removed the snow dam on Bennett, from Bennett Commons. And again, that was from ice and water running down from the properties above. This has been, quite a season. Snow has not been high, but the ice incidents are what's taking the most time and the most effort.
So how's your supply of salt now?
What's that?
How's the supply of salt?
The town just got a new supply,
Okay.
we had almost exhausted it. And we just got 10 trucks in.
Okay.
And they come from Albany, so sometimes we don't get them on time, we were lucky enough to get them on time. Just to give you an idea, so far we've used 470 tons of salt.
Wow.
That's just the village. The
That's
town,
amazing.
I have no idea what the town has used.
Wow.
Because it's a constant thing. I mean, it was a beautiful day today, and this morning we had to go out.
Is that right?
And some because of what melts, and we can't allow the hazard there. And then it will eventually all come to an end. But, the one thing I do ask people, and that I asked before, is help with the sidewalks. Matt does a great job with the calcium on it, but he can't be out 24 hours a day. So when he does, he does that initial melt, the people in the businesses and homeowners also need to help out with spraying some salt, or it'll just get thicker and thicker. The spots where there's no sun, it's really hard. This morning we were out by hand doing some glaze on the well-trafficked area, and they'll melt, and tomorrow we'll have to probably go out again. Well, hopefully tonight it's not going to be that.
Yeah, we asked you what you can do, to protect your own properties. If there's problems, like there was an ice dam there at the corner of Franklin in front, and sometimes you got to call the office and get help. Right? Whatever you can do, we sure appreciate it.
Yeah, in front of the businesses, it's just just using the same salt you use on your porch or whatever is a huge help. And it's a help for your customers and for yourselves.
But be careful, I have to run the phone twice this week.
Oh, yeah.
One while out inspecting the sidewalks.
If you're not watching, yeah, that can happen. No, it's a definite problem, but it's the season. And unusually heavy ice season. But again, it's a lot worse on the other side of the river. Where
Yeah, we were lucky.
they lost 68,000 people lost power. I think we only lost two. I think only Dutchess was only like 2,800.
Is that right? We lost it for like less than an hour, I think.
They're just getting the power back on now, so
Is that right?
so it was a lot worse over there.
All right. Any questions for Bob?
I'm good.
Here?
I've had several
Yeah.
residents ask me, not so much businesses, but residents, whose responsibility it is to clear sidewalks. Now, I know helping out when we can, totally get it, but I guess if there's clear guidance.
So the fact is, it's our responsibility to go and clear the sidewalks. We just paid $20,000 for a new tractor. We hire Matt, who does street gardens, to run that tractor. It includes plowing as well as putting calcium chloride as he finishes. Right? But so it's primarily ours. And he does multiple runs when needed to, per day if it's still snowing or when the ice comes back. We're just asking for the residents to help us out when they can. Because we can't be there all 24/7. Right? Primarily it's ours. So if they got a problem, they can't do it themselves, they should call our office.
Some people, things like that.
Yeah, they should call. All right.
Thanks.
Any questions from the audience? Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Scott.
All right.
By the way, nice job by your guys to make that rack.
Thank you.
I can't believe the first one that held it all, but that was a nice job.
How about all the hours?
Okay. Hey, Scott.
All right, start with the water. For January, we produced 5,711,333 gallons. Average daily flow was 184,200 gallons. Performed all monthly maintenance sampling. Tinsley serviced the generator. We replaced 3 frozen water meters. We investigated a potential water leak, which actually was a water leak, at 10 North Avenue. That happened to be fixed today.
Oh, good.
So that's done. Replaced the battery on the generator, as we discussed last December, so we did that, not Tinsley.
Is that right? Okay.
So you have to be charged $400.
All right, good.
And completed and submitted the annual water withdrawal report.
So what was the cost of the fixing the Kinsley power generator?
That bill hasn't come in yet, so I don't know what the battery costs, but certainly, it was only an hour worth of time.
Is that right? Okay, good. All right.
Why they wanted to charge it that much, I don't know.
All right. Any questions for Scott's water report?
No, good.
Peter?
I guess just a pretty significant increase from November to January in terms of water production. Is that in line with years past, or?
Well, you had the water leak that I put there, and we also had one on Monday morning, which was pretty significant.
So there's a water leak on 9 Partners Road. But the one that's on North Avenue has been going on for a
The one
while.
on North Avenue has been going on probably since December.
And you estimated the monthly usage there is for leak is.
Well, when we checked it in November after they got their bill, because they said, oh my God, the bill's high. So we went and checked it in January after they called, and the meter was running about 10 gallons a minute. So, based on the usage, I would say that's pretty accurate. So, they were using roughly 200,000 gallons, you know, a month.
A month.
Than their normal, so.
So
That one was pretty significant. The one at 9 Partners, I don't have an estimate how long that was running, but I gotta see where the production goes the next several days after the leaks have been fixed to try to figure out where we lost them. My guess is that they're running more than they run Monday. So that, I would suspect next month the numbers will be down, but then when we get to March, after we get longer period of time,
10 gallons a minute is 430,000.
And our policy is it goes to the meter, then we charge them the full rate.
Right, in this case, the meter is, for an apartment complex, the meter is outside of the pit with 4 feet, as opposed to a house where the meter is inside, the leak is outside. So we're not villages, you know, we're not getting money.
Right, right.
So who's the first one you said?
So if the leak is on the homeowner's side of the meter, then we bill them for that water usage. Okay. If it's on the other side of the meter, but from the street,
It depends, so.
it depends, right?
Right, the responsibility lies after the shut-off valve for each building, right? So in most cases, the meters, being that we're in the northeast, are inside the building. We do have some that are in pits, this one being one, so therefore, in this case, the leak was after the water meter. Wow. So, if it was before, it would have been metered, we would have lost all that water.
Right.
Oh, the building owner would still be responsible to fix it because it was after the shut.
Okay, I sent out a notice about T-Mobile doing an upgrade to their tower, their antennas on the tower. Right, I think Bill, you responded. Right, so Ian has asked for a review of the contract, and I'll get that to you tomorrow. All right. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to replace 6 antennas that are there, replace 6 radio packs that they got.
They're not going to, not changing the mounting brackets.
Okay, good. We don't want to touch our newly resurfaced water tower. And they're also putting a new cabinet, service cabinet down on the floor, right? So everyone's okay with that, I assume. Once Ian takes a look at the contract, make sure there's no problems, which I don't expect there to be.
No, they should be able to, if they're just replacing what's already there.
Yeah.
But should be fine, but I'd like to see what the agreement says.
Okay, and they're planning to do this in early April, end of March, it'll take 2 to 3 days, just so we know when a big crane shows up, that's what they're doing. Okay, so you're okay with that, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. Anything else in the report?
I did include the year end.
Oh, okay, sure, let's look at that.
So for 2021, in the water system, the new water treatment plant was put in service in January. So we've been through a full year of that now. We repaired the damaged fire hydrant at the water plant. We repaired the damaged gate at the water plant. Replaced 6 fire hydrants, 2 on Church Street, 2 on Bennett Common, 1 on Hayden, and 1 on Valley Farm. Repaired 2 curb boxes, repaired 3 water service line leaks, repaired a major water leak at Valley Farm in 44. We installed a new 8-inch water main valve on Carroll Boulevard. Painted the majority of the fire hydrants, the older ones that is. We installed 15 brand new water meters, repaired several non-reading water meters for readouts outside, worked on updating the water code, and completed the annual water withdrawal.
All right, good. Now, that's not in the package, so can, do you
I
have
sent
that?
that to Nicole.
Was that right? Okay, so maybe it's
We'll
okay.
update it.
Okay, good. Any questions about the year-end report?
No.
Questions from the audience? All right, good. Scott, one question I have is the EPA order that you're working on. How's that going?
That's for the sewer, right?
Yeah. Well, that's sewer, that's right. I'm sorry.
That's right, it's going in next.
All right, fine, go ahead.
I will get into it as soon as things stop piling up.
Okay.
The budget.
What is the date that you promised to have
May.
done?
May.
Okay, so after the budget?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's on my list and keep pushing.
Okay, great.
Push down because everything else I have.
Okay.
It's getting closer to the top.
Just so you don't forget it.
I mean, what they're asking for is an O&M plan for
Yeah.
the district, for the collection system.
Won't forget that, I promise.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right, sewer.
All right, for the sewer plant, in January, total effluent flow was 3,849,173 gallons. Average daily flow was 124,200. Precipitation was 1.5 inches. Performed all maintenance and sampling. Earth care hauled liquid sludge. Completed and submitted the annual flow certification to the DEC. And we had a discussion with Delaware regarding Bennett pump station generators and replacement.
And so where are you with that? Is that gonna be something for a capital
Yeah, so
appropriation
there's
or?
2 parts to it. There's the pump station, replacing the floor, which needs to be replaced. The cost to replace, just to purchase the floor, they don't just sell the floor, they sell the floor with all the piping and the volute and check valves, and it's about $55,000 for that. To buy a brand new pump station is $107,000. So we haven't had a conversation yet, but I have a hard time spending $54,000 and then still having 2 old pumps, original equipment pumps, original equipment control panel, and original equipment check valves and everything like that, when we could replace the entire thing for $107,000. Because of the EPG grant that we went after, so replacing the pump station could be a part of the upgraded wastewater plant. So
Okay.
once we get a clearer picture from EFC, hopefully they're gonna tell us to reapply next year.
That means tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Right.
But what I have to get with Scott on is, what do we think the useful life is of that floor? Because it's a bad shape.
I think we're there.
Yeah. So
Okay, fine. So we're talking about the full replacement.
Yeah, that's my concern. The pump station was put in '86.
yeah, it doesn't offset.
Okay.
It's all.
We're pushing 40 years now. 2 years, so.
All right. Well,
See,
you
the
just
cost to replace the floor, the labor, is gonna be the same labor charge as if we replaced the whole
All right,
station.
fine, so we're talking about $107,000 that we're talking about,
Plus this.
which we don't have now. So we need the grant to come through for us to include this in the package.
Well, certainly, if we could, certainly,
What?
it's one of the places that if there was county money, the same source that we got when we did the work at the water plant,
Yeah,
I mean, it would be a good place to spend that money.
so you're saying we should look to for county money?
Well, the shared services grant that Mike was talking about earlier,
Yeah,
if that is gonna come out and it's gonna be available to us, I would support making an application for that for the upgrade of that,
I see.
of that pump station. Now, as far as the generator goes, we're looking at grant money for the generator.
So that's on top of $107,000, we're talking about a generator to add to it, which doesn't
Because
exist
there's
today.
there's no emergency power in there.
Okay,
So if the power goes out, he has to get a pump truck there pretty quickly, or it's gonna spill.
and you also said a generator is a year out.
Well, that's just,
It's a year out from when you order it,
Yeah, okay, fine.
so.
How much is the generator on top of $107,000?
The generator fully installed, you know, the generator, you know, just the engine, the install cost about $100,000.
All right. Okay,
so Scott and I have to get together and come up with a plan on the floor.
okay, proposal, and we're gonna figure out how we're gonna fund it.
Like, is there something we can do in the interim to get us through 2 years or not?
Okay,
Another option for that generator could be a portable generator, we can shell them out, those are around $40,000.
is that all right?
You know,
All right, you guys work on it and tell us, and come back and tell us, but then it's gonna be out there, it's not gonna be something we're gonna be able to afford to do in the near future.
Well, we can look at the budget.
Yeah, okay.
To look at the numbers, so there's gonna be some money there, I don't know about the whole thing, but we wanna put it all in reserve. Maybe I'll see that first.
Yeah, sure. And start building up.
Last year, we
Yeah.
wanna put a bunch more, we can discuss that at budget time.
Yeah, sure. That would be like, you know, we did $22,000 this year, right? So that means you're talking 5 years. Okay. All right, well, you guys first develop the plan, and then we'll talk about the funding later.
Yeah, that, I mean, if we were to replace the pump station, that would be bond. You would take a 30 or 20-year bond out for that, probably a 20-year bond.
Okay.
That wouldn't come out of, you know, we recommend borrowing for that.
All right. Is that the useful life? 20 years?
It's about 20 years on a pump station, like that.
You know, for 25, either way, well past.
Okay. The current one, I guess did that. All right, fine. All right. What else in sewer?
We close out 2021.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, for 2021, replace the pump rails on the influent pump station at the treatment plant. Replace the collapsed sewer drain from the lab building. Repair clarifier number 1, damaged blades and broken chain. Install a new counter sink, shelves, water heater in the lab building. We cleaned 5,400 feet of sewer main. Performed the annual sewer main video inspections, 10,094 feet recovered. We rebuilt a manhole on Carroll Boulevard, repaired 3 other manholes, Maple Hill Drive and Carroll Boulevard. Installed 29 inflow protector covers. Installed 225 feet of cured-in-place pipe on Hardest Village Road at the intersection of Hanson Avenue. Repaired sewer main on Reservoir Drive. We completed an inspection of the collection system with the EPA. The annual I&I report was submitted to the DEC on time. We also submitted a speedies review application to the DEC. And we worked on updating the sewer.
Okay. Any questions about that? No? Any questions from the audience? A lot of accomplishments there, Scott. Thanks. All right. Sarah, clerk.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Glad to see we all fought out to make it to the meeting. So I'm going to read from the treasurer's report, the forming accounts. So we have a tax account ending January 31st, 2022, $316,037.57. General fund, $47,526.69. Water fund, $48,933.84. And sewer fund, $87,808.45. And I know you all got the operating statement, and it is also posted on the website. Karen was kind enough to give Arvin your report. We're currently just working on budget prep, and as Karen stated, we will be getting worksheets out to you guys next week. And then on my report, I just have the list of the budget meetings that will be coming up, which is also posted on our website.
Okay, good. So the next meeting is the 23rd of February, starting with Scott's Water and Sewer.
Yep.
Just like we did last time.
Yep. And then hopefully by the 13th of April, we can, that will be a regular board meeting. We'll have the public hearing for the budget.
Okay.
Worked with the fire department to get the roof replacement invitation to bid out to the paper. So we should be receiving those sealed bids and open them by March 1st at 2:30. We'll be doing that at Village Hall.
All right, good.
So that's about all I have for the treasurer report.
Any questions about the treasury report? Here, go. Thanks.
All right.
Want to do it?
Now we're on to the building department. So for January 2022, we collected a total of $1,040. We had 4 building permits issued. We had no sign permits. We had 1 certificate of occupancy, 2 certificate of compliances, and 2 municipal searches. I received no updates from planning board or ZBA, but I have scheduled Kay to come in to take her oath of office on the 15th.
To continue her term. Okay, very
Correct.
good.
And I heard nothing about
The ZBA.
So, I don't know.
I did talk to Andy about checking with Tim Kowalski about whether he's still on board or not, so that's still TBD.
I mean, I could send an email too.
Why don't you do that?
I'll send it.
Yeah, good.
And that's all I have.
Questions about the planning board? No? Questions from the audience? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, new business. First off, item is the resolution to introduce the update to Chapter 180 in our village code for sewers and water. And we do have a resolution. I like to read through this because I have to actually read through Section 1, because I thought whoever did this, you guys, was it Ian or Scott or Mike, you had a real nice summary about what we're doing here. So can I just read through the resolution and start this off?
Yeah.
Okay. At a meeting of the Village Board of Trustees in the Village of Millbrook, held at the Village Firehouse on the 9th day of February 2022 at 6 p.m. Village Mayor Tim Galvin called the meeting to order, and Trustee Herzog made a motion, seconded by Trustee Doral. Okay. Move the following resolution to introduce the following proposed local law, to be known as proposed local law number 1, 2022, entitled a local law amending Chapter 180 of the Village Code, entitled Sewers and Water, to update the existing provisions of that chapter and introduce a new separate article of that chapter entitled Water as follows. Being enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Millbrook as follows. I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'll just read this one paragraph, okay? Thank you. Because it gives a good summary. Legislative intent. The Village Board of Trustees has determined it is necessary in the best interest of the village and its residents to amend the existing Chapter 180 of the Village Code entitled Sewers and Water to update the provisions contained therein and add a new separate article to contain the specific regulations with respect to water. The existing Article 1 entitled Rates and Article 2 entitled Sanitary Sewers in Chapter 180 are being repealed in their entirety and replaced with a new Article 1 entitled Rates and Fees and a new Article 2 entitled Water. The existing Article 2 entitled Sanitary Sewers is being amended to provide updates and necessary changes, and the new amended provisions are being enacted as the new Article 3, hereinafter entitled Sanitary Sewers. The provisions contained in the existing Article 3 of Chapter 180 entitled Cross Connections and Blackflow Protection are being updated with only minor changes and enacted as the new Article 4 of Chapter 180. So basically, we're expanding it to include now 4 sections to better clarify how the code worked out. So I don't know if you had a chance to read through that or not, Peter, and Mike?
Yeah.
Any questions about what we're doing? You're part of the team, we're not having questions. Peter, any questions about what we're trying to accomplish here?
No.
So this is a resolution to introduce the proposed change. I want to get the board's approval to do that. And then we would have a public hearing held at the next board meeting in March. Okay? So based on that, any questions from the audience about what we're doing here? About Chapter 180 of the Village Code? Basically, it's rewriting the entire chapter. No questions? So we're going to get a motion from the board to adopt this resolution.
Well, we have the,
Oh, okay, what did we do?
so, the foregoing resolution was duly put to vote, which resulted as follows. Mayor Calvi,
Aye.
Trustee Herzog,
Aye.
Trustee Contino absent, Trustee Arbogast absent, Trustee Doro?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, good, that's it?
that's it.
All right, so then this is posted on the website for everyone to look at over the next month?
Yep, and we'll post it in the paper.
In the paper as well for
Yep.
public hearing? And then the next meeting, we'll have a public hearing and then
You're-
we'll adopt it.
Right, March 9th is your next meeting.
Yes.
We'll have to go through seeker, open the public hearing, and then close the public hearing, and you can enact a local law.
Okay, good. Everyone's okay with what we're doing here? All right, very good, thank you. Nice piece of work, by the way, by Scott and Mike, and also Leslie, I guess, was involved when she was still a trustee. Okay, that's good. Next topic is the status of our grant application to EPG for the sewer project. So what we're doing, we requested a grant from a New York State agency to partially fund the cost to generate the engineering report to determine what it is we need to do to upgrade our sewer system. Okay, and the status is that we've submitted it twice and been rejected. So actually tomorrow, I was hoping to give you our feedback from a meeting that was initially scheduled for Tuesday. It was moved to tomorrow. So tomorrow, we have a short meeting with the project manager in New York State for that. And we'll ask for explanation of why we were rejected and what we need to do for the next submission. Okay. So the idea is this is the first step for us to request the grant money so we can write the report to understand what we need to do in the sewer wastewater treatment plant. Okay. So I don't have any report from that meeting because it was moved until tomorrow. So I'll update that in my newsletter I put out this next week. So that's the status of that grant application. Any questions or comments about what we're doing there? What our timeline is? Okay, good. Next item on the agenda is an upgrade to the request for a community development block grant from Dutchess County for our sidewalk improvements. So, Trustee Herzog, can you give us an update of that?
Yes. We received communication back from the planning department at the county level, and they had some questions about our application. Mayor Calvi and myself sat down and went over their questions, and then resubmitted answers to answer those questions about the project scope. We haven't met personally with anyone from the planning department yet, but hopefully this was a matter of clarification on things that they had in terms of issues potentially with how we were going to do the project and what it entailed. So we've sent that communication back to the county, and we're anticipating some kind of either a confirmation that yes, this was fine, or they may have further questions, and we'll have to wait and see.
Right. So again, we've got a plan to try to upgrade the sidewalks throughout the village, starting with the business district, starting with Franklin Avenue, and actually starting on the south side of Franklin for the section from Front Street to Church, and then from Church up to Frederick. We've identified those as the first 2 phases we're going to do. We're requesting a grant of up to $150,000 for us to do that. And We want to use that as a kickoff towards starting this project. We expect to be able to come back to Dutchess County in future years as well to get additional money. This will be just the first step in that project. Okay. So we should hear about whether or not we receive that grant probably in the next few months, right?
I would say so. I don't know the exact time span, but
Okay.
whatever the date. If we need to, then we will get, they may come to the village and want to actually walk with us on the site, things of that nature to see.
If they do, John, I think we're going to ask you to help to join us, just for the sake of being a legislative rep.
Absolutely.
Of interest, okay? So we'll give you a heads up as soon as that happens.
Yeah, and just for information purposes, when people are aware, phase one of that project that we want to be able to do is basically going to be the involve sidewalks from not complete replacement, but panels and taking out trees and putting in new panels, etc. That's going to be going from Church Street to Front Street, and we'll be just as a quick sketch. We'll be taking out 4 trees, replacing those 4 trees after the sidewalk panels that have heat and creating a hazard are replaced, and we're not just going to be replacing like one panel at a time. Like for instance, almost the entire stretch between the diner and all the way to Front Street is going to have to be taken out, and then all new concrete panels put in, because we not only have deep sidewalks, but the fact that if you look at them carefully, you'll see now that the tilt, instead of tilting toward the road, many of those panels are now tilting back towards the building, which is
Right,
creating.
which doesn't help us as far as getting the ice off the sidewalks either.
Yeah, so that it's creating problems for the business, and I've sat down and talked to Scott about this, and there is some infrastructure with lines going into the buildings there that will have to be encountered, and if we have to do any repairs on that kind of infrastructure, the money for that will come out of the water fund that we looked at the budget for 2022.
Right, not part of this fund.
As opposed to the grant itself.
So fundamentally, we are interested in replacing whatever trees we do take down.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm going to look to the, whichever company we, fund to actually do the project to give us their expertise in terms of panels versus long stretches.
Right, and I've already communicated back to the planning department that we have every intention, as we have done in the past, of working with Stephanie Radden and the Royal Cooperative Extension with her expertise, and George Crocus, who's the person from the DEC or the Urban Forestry Division, to be able to work with us on specifically what trees are going to be put back and make sure that they're acceptable for where they're going.
But they don't erode concrete 5 years from now.
Yeah, but you're gonna have trees put back that are gonna be salt tolerant, they're going to make sure that they are going to be conducive for an urban environment and basically be a good fit for what we want to do. So, it's always a touchy situation when you say, well, you're taking out a tree, but we are replacing every tree we take out with substitutes.
Yep.
I want to emphasize that.
Any questions about that, the game plan here? A lot of things have to fall into place. Got to get the grant, got to go out to bid, got to get a plan in place, and start, the placement of the trees as well as the concrete itself.
Yeah, for the previous project that we did on Franklin Avenue back in 2017, we followed the same schedule, and essentially we knew by late spring that whether we were going to get the grant or not, and the project was done by December. Completely done by December. So,
and that was a tough one, right at the intersection.
Yeah, so that was hoping that we will be able to follow the same time schedule, so that, with the possible exception of depending on logistics of the actual cement going in and when it happens and when the project is complete, if the trees do not go back immediately because it turned out to be December, which is not the optimal time for the
Sure.
trees, that would be done the following spring.
I'm more worried about the logistics, the business owners right there, and how this is going to affect them, what we're going to do about it. But we'll get there. The end goal is the right thing to do. Getting from here to there is, of course, not going to be simple. So.
And one of the trees coming out and panels being placed right in front of your floor.
With the stupid bricks that I fell on earlier this week, so. Okay, good, thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the next code update, which is the chapter on vehicles and traffic. So Deputy Mayor Contino is not here, but they really don't have any update because we're focused on the water and sewer. And that's going to be, this month, resolution next month, hopefully public hearing and passing. And then we'll start focusing on vehicles and traffic. Okay, so that's about 2 months down the road. Next is Mike, an update to the shade tree policy. Basically, we discussed this before, and just a matter, I think, of a resolution for us to agree that the modifications you made to the policy are acceptable.
Right. I gave Trustee Dora your copy and the mayor as well, and this out. The language is strictly a policy adoption that shows the procedures we're going to follow, the village is going to follow, as recommended by the Shade Tree Commission, on how trees are going to be planted and how trees are going to be removed.
It's basically an update to the policy that's already on the website.
Yeah, and it's an update, and the only change in what's in front of you that's different from the website that was posted already is in procedure for tree removal on number 4. It said if tree in question is to be removed, the homeowner will be informed in writing. And Trustee Arbogast at a previous meeting said, could we make that in writing by registered mail within a reasonable time to respond, so that you don't run into the problem of someone being sent a letter that ends up in a mailbox and sits there and they have no idea, and then the tree is removed and they say, you never told me that this was being done. So it'll be done by registered mail and you have to sign for it. No.
Any questions about that? Any questions from the audience about what we're doing here? All right, so based on it, can I hear the motion to accept the changes to the shade tree policy?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
A second? Second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Good job, Mike. Thanks. Okay, next, we're going to talk about the retaining wall project. So, Alan Emrock from Doe Engineering has come to take us through his assessment of the 4 bids that we provided. You have to repair the retaining wall.
So on December 9th, we received bids for repairing the retaining wall, Marshfield Road. There was 4 bids, ranging from $140,000 to $492,000 on the 4 contractors. The low bidder was Shaw Contracting. Their bid was the $140,000. They're out of Brooklyn, New York. Part of their submittal for the bids, they didn't submit any references. So we went through reviewing the reference, trying to review references, but we couldn't, so we reached back out to them to try to get them to give us some references and have a conversation with them about the project and what kind of materials they were going to use, because there's a specification on things to use. The products that were specified, there's a bunch of specialty products for that type of project, and they weren't familiar with those products. We asked them also for these references, haven't received any references. I spoke to the guy. He hadn't seen the wall prior to bid. He did come up afterwards and look at the wall, but still has received no references from him.
And you didn't have plenty of time to do that, so based on that,
based on that, we decided to start looking at the second bidder, which was Contact, company out of Carmel. Their bid was $240,000. Their references, checked out. Their understanding of the project was spot on. And local folks, they've come up and looked at the wall several times before the bid. So our position would be to recommend Contact over Shaw at this time, due to lack of a good feeling on Shaw and their references.
So Contact's proposal conforms to what your bid requirements were?
Yep. Everything was there in their bid.
Okay. What kind of contingency do you recommend we include in the funding for this?
We have a contingency built into the project.
Okay, so the 240,000 already includes the contingency?
Yes.
Of how much?
I think it's $30,000.
Okay, all right, fine. And what's the cost of Delaware Engineering to be project manager overseer?
So our cost, which carries, this is, it's probably a couple months for them to finish the work, but they'll probably be there full-time for 6 weeks. So we'll have an inspector out there for 6 weeks. We'll have, pre-construction meetings, submittal review, and payment application review. That whole package is $31,000.
Okay. Now that's 31,000 to go, because you guys have already been involved in it. We've had the wall tested, you guys did an engineering report, you put together the bid package. We've already paid out bills totaling $23,000 to Delaware. I think there's another $1,800 bill in this month's invoices. So that's already paid. You say this is $31,000 on top of
This is for the construction administration inspection.
Okay, fine. So we're $275,000.
Which is, if you add the two, it's in line with the typical 20% of a construction project.
Okay, fine.
Design and construction.
Any questions about the bid and the recommended proposal? Peter?
Has council looked at the documents yet?
No, I don't think so, right?
No, I haven't seen.
What was your concern, Peter?
Well, it just says that Delaware recommends that we would council review.
Oh, yeah, okay. Why is that?
Just because of the nature of going to a second bidder versus a first bidder.
Oh, I see.
That kind of
We're past
process.
the first one, I see.
It's a little different than.
So what, you heard that we got the low bid, and he's basically said he doesn't recommend we pursue them.
Yeah, your requirement under general municipal law is to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. Responsible and responsive, I would say that the lowest bid here was not responsive. It didn't provide all the information that they were required to under the bid specifications. So you're within your authority to reject that bid and go with the next lowest.
So do we need some documentation to say that from you, or what? How do we state that officially?
Yeah, let me look into it. I don't know that you mean notifying them that they were not the,
Yeah,
or just.
how we handle that. Yeah.
Well,
I want to do it so it's officially stated that we looked at that.
when you award the bid, you do that, you can do it in a resolution, or if you're doing it tonight, just orally put it in your motion that on the recommendation of your engineer, you're going with the second lowest bid.
Okay,
because
fine.
the first lowest bidder did not, was not a responsive.
Basically didn't
bidder.
meet requirements. As far
It
as
did
I'm
not
concerned.
submit everything that was required.
Okay, that's how we do it. So that leads me to the question, before we accept the bid, I want to talk about how we're going to fund this. And that's why I'm glad Karen's here. So first off, right off the bat, we wanted to use the full $144,000 of the American and their rescue funds for that. All right. So that gets us about halfway there. So my question to Karen is, what do you recommend we do as far as funding the remainder?
I don't think we have a choice. I think we're gonna have to bond it.
Bond
I mean,
it? Why can't we look at using CHIPS money? Why can't we look at using some of
we
those
can,
restricted fund balance?
well, CHIPS, have you spoken to CHIPS? Will they cover it?
Oh, is it eligible?
Yeah, it should be, it'll last 10 years. So.
It better last more than 10 years.
Well, so that's the requirement, that's a permanent.
And it is in support of a road. I mean, the idea is that the retaining wall is holding up the road, so.
Yeah,
It's
I
another
think,
lifespan of 10 years,
Okay.
at least 10 years.
if Bob doesn't have any plans for the CHIPS money.
Oh, yeah, it's plans.
I mean-
We have money, we have roads we want to repair. So that is a usable, a possible use of the money. Well, the other problem with that is we don't really find out how much we're being replenished in CHIPS money until June, I think it is.
No, I think it should, I think you should have gotten your letter.
The last letter we got in January was simply restating the fact that we've used all but 44,000 of what we have, right?
I think so, yeah.
Because it's a retaining wall, it's gonna last, you'll be able to bond that out as long as you can, as long as the bond is, you can probably get.
So we could do a combination, we can do funding from all three sources. We might wanna look at the budget, when we're doing the budget, to just see what the principal and interest is gonna look like in the budget.
Okay.
When we do the budget. I think we also, when you do your resolution, maybe you should include the additional engineering not to exceed 31,000, and then have that total cost of the
Oh,
project.
definitely. I would definitely include, that's why I asked him up front what that was gonna be.
And I actually have a proposal for you, so you can take that.
Oh, good, all right. No, so definitely include that.
These are,
Do you know what you have left in chips?
these are a few copies of that. I worked out.
Yeah, I got that, right.
You should share those with the rest of the.
All right, that's fine, okay.
And these are.
Oh, good, all right.
There's 3 copies there.
So this just specifies the 31,000. Okay. All right, so the discussion from the board, what do you recommend we do? I guess Karen, you're saying basically we should bond it out?
Well, I think we could, after we submit for the tractor from
Which we
CHIPS,
did.
which Sarah just did, see what our balance is. I think you can do a bond resolution, and then if we don't have to bond that much, right, Ian?
Oh, that's correct. You can do the bond resolution, you're not required to issue the bonds or the bond anticipation.
Okay, so then can we go forward to ask for quotes for a bond that will support the 440,000?
You want me to solicit banks?
Yeah, I think so.
We can get interest rates for that.
Yep.
And the term, can we make it a 10 or 20-year term?
Well, you can go 40 years.
40?
Because it's gonna last. It's gonna be
Well,
there.
on the bond, in your bond resolution, the term is limited by not necessarily the actual useful life, but the useful life that is in the local finance law. They spell it out in the statute. So you're stuck with what, it may be 40 years for something like that. I always have to check. It's a statute that lists all different, water projects, vehicles, equipment. It spells out, it's specific about.
Let me ask you this, if you go for a 40-year loan, is it a lower rate or higher rate when you go for like a 10 or 15-year loan?
Well, the farther out you go, it's gonna be, I said the farther out you go, it's gonna be lower, but.
Lower?
But do you wanna go out 40 years? I mean.
I want to go out as far as I can and pay it off early.
So I think, as Ian said, I think we should look up what the period of probable usefulness is as per the
Okay.
finance guide, and then we can go from there.
All right. Sarah, I remember a discussion a year ago about the banks don't want to give us a loan more than like 5 years. Obviously, that's not true because the oil spill loan was 20 years. But is that true, 5 years, or not? Are banks willing to give us loans for longer than?
I think when we were trying to roll certain things together.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
Yeah, I
fine.
don't think it was for like something.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
So you can go forward to banks and ask for quotes for loans of, well, I guess, Karen, you gotta make a recommendation to us. How long do you think we should go out?
I think
Check.
we should look and
Okay, fine.
find out.
Find out what the period of probable usefulness is under the local finance law. I think the 5 years, you can only issue bond anticipation notes for up to 5 years. And then you can go to bonds.
I know that they changed that from 5 to 7. We can
Right.
do bands for 7 years.
Yeah.
But this is when I don't want to do the band, we'll go straight to a bond.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. I think if we know what the amount is, we'll go straight to a bond and we'll
Okay.
have another closing cost.
All right, so based on this discussion, the amount is $140,000 to supplement our American Rescue Fund money.
Okay.
And we'll determine how far off we can go as far as the timing.
Okay.
I'd like to get that going so we can have that for the discussion part of the budget. All right? So, Sarah, is that a reasonable schedule? We get feedback from the banks within our budget time period?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Maybe we can do it the 23rd.
Okay.
Karen's suggesting the 23rd meeting.
Say what?
Karen's suggesting maybe the 23rd, the meeting at the 23rd.
February 23rd?
Yeah, well, we do water and sewer, we can just.
Yeah, by now, by then, it's 2 weeks from now.
I think the base.
All right, great. All right,
If
good.
not, I'll let you know.
Okay, good. Questions, comments?
I'll just comment on, you know, if we're looking at how we're gonna fund this, you know, we'll see what the particulars are with the bond issue. I would be wary of using CHIPS funds for something like that.
Oh, Bob just paid you to say that, I know that.
No. No, for the fact that CHIPS can be used for roads, it can be used for sidewalks, and it can be used for capital projects like the retaining wall. If we don't get funding that we're anticipating or hope to get to do sidewalks, you may want to use part of those CHIP funds to do, even if we only do phase 1 next year, that whatever it's going to cost us may have to come out of CHIP funds for the sidewalk. Because how long?
We're coming for your chips one way, Bob.
How
One
long?
way or the other, man.
How long do you want to go with hazardous sidewalks?
All right, that's good. I like that.
So I just want to make sure that's not lost. It's, you know, it's something that we hope to get funding through a grant, but if we don't get it through a grant, it doesn't mean that the project goes on hold for a year.
All right, that's good. Okay. Peter, any questions or comments? All right. Audience, anybody in the audience have a question or comment about this proposal? What we're going to do here? All right, good. So, Evelyn, thank you so much for your expertise in here and documentation and such. And Karen, setting it along.
Vote for notice to proceed.
Can I wait till we find out the funding story? Is that a problem, by the way, to hold on?
No, I'll talk to contact, let them know that we'll get back to them in a couple of weeks. They didn't seem
Good.
to
I'd like to
have
have
an
a full funding story in front of us.
Yeah.
Okay with it before we say.
I don't think they'll have an issue waiting a couple of weeks. You know, my guess is that even if you know, we probably aren't going to be able to get started until, you know, late May, June time.
But it's going to be a this year kind of project, right?
That would be my recommendation. I mean, the wall, since we first started looking at the wall, which was probably 3 years ago.
And it's still standing.
And it's, yeah, but it's definitely, when I went out there to look at it maybe 2.5 months ago, it got.
Well, if you quit picking at it, you guys, it'd probably be in much better shape. Okay, good. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Now, this is a section for public comments. Anyone in the audience have a public comment may come up to the podium.
I have a question.
Well, come on up to the podium so we can hear you, and so you get on camera.
Oh, okay.
So first introduce yourself, and then...
Okay, my name is Norma Bauman, and I have a question. It's my understanding that several of our neighboring villages are registered for the Climate Smart, New York State Climate Smart project, and I was just wondering if we're planning on participating in that.
Right, yeah. We're in this coming spring, we were contacted and agreed to be able to enter a climate smart resiliency plan with the Cornell Cooperative Extension, where they come in and they look at your ordinances, they look at your comprehensive plan, they look at all of your work and, you know, your structure, and then they tell you things that you need to do to help you set up a plan to be able to then proceed becoming a climate smart community. And the first thing you have to do is obviously take the pledge.
Right.
But before you take the pledge, you've got to know what you have in front of you that would be necessary in order to be able to do that realistically. And the board agreed.
Now, Mike presented at the last meeting, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's when they contacted me in December, I think.
Yes, and they said this is something for the spring of 2022. So I'll be working specifically with people at Cooperative Extension to help with that resiliency plan together. So how we can proceed in an organized manner to be able to register and then to be able to then look at what exactly takes place, what you can.
I actually told Mike he couldn't do it because he had too much stuff on his plate. He promised me he could do the sidewalks and the other stuff and still do this. So,
Yeah, I can still
so he's the guy.
Yes, it's big on the page. Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Come on to the podium. Thanks, guys.
Hi, it's Rachel Slattery.
Rachel? Thank you.
I've lived in Millbrook for about 20 years. The last 6 have been in the village. I'm not sure if it's the buzz about Governor Hochul putting a freeze on evictions, but it prompted a couple of different local newspapers to write articles about what is considered to be, let's see, what's the word, what's a good cause eviction. And it breaks it down to the reasons why you can and cannot evict someone. One of the things that it does, which not only in Dutchess County, but also in Ulster County, they have a cap on their rents. So, for example, when I first moved into the village, I lived on Washington, or I don't know, depending on who's video or fire department, the Karuba's house that burned a couple of years ago. I lived in that house, and they were elderly. I was the only one in the house. It was me and them. So they felt comfortable having me there. I felt comfortable living there because I came with no baggage, no kids, no husband, no dog, no smoking, no nothing. So it was a win-win. In my benefit, I was charged very low amount because they were, in their 90s. And they were just happy to have somebody there. Moving forward, they both passed away. The new gentleman and his wife from the Grange come in, they buy the house. In order for me to stay there, I had to agree to an increase of 20% in my rent, and come up with a security agreement, and come up with our sign a lease. All those things are fair. We obviously bought the house to make money as an investment, understandable. The market demands the increased rents that we've seen, around the country, really. But it doesn't do anything for people like me to protect me from having to say, okay, we're going to raise your rent to $5,000 this month. And so I paid it for the 2 years that my lease was at the 20%. And now this year, it's going to be, the first year was 26%, this year is going to be 23%. Now, good cause eviction in both the Good Guilty Journal and the Daily Freeman identify what they call unconscionable rental increases, which is defined as anything over 5%. Now, both Dutchess County and Ulster County have what they call, Ulster County uses the word predatory increase in rent, which is more than 5%. So there is no protection in the village. And so now, over the course of 2 years, I'm looking at 40% increase in my rent. I'm not making 40% more. Inflation is at an all-time high. All of the landlords that I know in Millbrook, I have talked to each individual of them, including some of the real estate agents, and they have said that 5%, if even anything, because of the fact that everyone is suffering, they don't want to take advantage of that and go, oh, wait, it's supply and demand, I could get somebody else that can afford more than you. But I've been there for 6 years. I'm a good tenant. I've got proof that I've been a good tenant for years. And I just don't feel that it's reasonable that anybody expects to pay. If your mortgage went up 40% in 1 year, you'd be like, yeah, cool. I can't say that because it's going to say, well, I can get somebody else in there. I don't expect the village to be able to change anything for my situation, but I would certainly hope they think about, because there is such a small amount of those rentals in Millbrook, that would be something that they would consider addressing in the future, that this is unfair. And I also agree that landlords need to be protected.
Sure.
They have rights as well, but it has to be amicable. And when it talks about predatory rental increases, more than 5%, and I'm looking at 40, it's really frustrating because I have to pay, if I'm a day late on my rent, $50 a day, $10 every day thereafter. when even Citibank and your mortgage company doesn't charge you $50 after 1 day.
So, was there a rent freeze in place? Is that still in place now because of the
There's an
pandemic?
eviction freeze, so if I stop paying today, they can't evict me.
I see.
Hochul hasn't said when that's gonna be lifted. It was, I think it was readdressed and it's probably gonna be done in a couple of months. But even so, I'm not gonna not pay my rent. I can't afford to sit there. I just can't, and I can appreciate the fact that I got such a great deal when I first moved here. 6 years have gone by, the market's changed, new owners come in, and whatever, they need to make more, and I agree with that. I was getting a great deal, but not 40% all at once. You want to do 5%, 10% for the last 2 years, that's understandable, but it's not reasonable, physically impossible for somebody to come up with that kind of money, like, on a, so, you know.
So I don't know what we in the village can do. From the
Nothing.
county point of view, are there any restrictions that you're aware of that we have as far as controlling rent increases?
The village has no authority to do anything with respect to that.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I don't know, I can't recall any place in our code or any place that we even discuss that.
For good reason, there's no authority for you to do that.
Okay.
That's all by state statute.
Well, Dutchess, Poughkeepsie, Kingston, Newburgh, Beacon, they all have it.
They have what? Caps on?
Yep, 5%.
Is that right?
No, it's for private or, yeah. It doesn't stipulate.
As far as I know, the village board has no authority. There are state statutes that address these issues. You don't have the authority to adopt or enact legislation that would contradict state statutes that are considered general statutes.
Rachel, you're saying like the city of Poughkeepsie has something like this.
There was an article in the Poughkeepsie Journal a week or so ago about certain municipalities, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Kingston, maybe trying to do it. And I'm not sure the specifics, but they have some.
Oh, they have. They already have.
Yeah, they already have some.
One of them, I think, was back in November. I think Poughkeepsie's always had it. But short of going to Albany myself, I can't see the village is going to care all that much.
Yeah, okay.
It's my opinion.
Well, look,
but going forward in the future, this is just the people taking advantage of a situation that they have the complete power over.
Okay, look, I'm interested in finding out just what these other municipalities are doing, so I will look at that and talk to, I think, Ian first, but then I'll get back to you as far as if we have any authority there, but I will defer to Ian when he tells me, what I can.
Because you're saying the New York State, they would govern the whole state, New York, not just counties individually giving them the jurisdiction to make their own decisions as a county?
The village has the authority to enact local laws. It has that authority, but only with respect, or I should say, the village can't enact local laws that contradict general laws of the state. And what you're talking about are landlord-tenant laws. There are statutes that apply.
But it's not contradicting what the state is saying.
I mean, I'd have to look into it. You're talking about some type of a rent.
I mean, the state doesn't say you can't raise your rent, but it doesn't say you have. I believe, from what I believe, that each county, they decide which towns in that, or if it's up to the towns, I'm not sure, but I don't think that it's something that the state,
All right, so let me go back and do some research, just find out what we can find out in other municipalities and also at the county level, and I'll get back to you. All right. How do you spell your last name?
There's nothing more than that this isn't happening again to somebody
No, that's
else.
fine. I need to understand this myself. So first, this is just an investigation. So your last name is Sutherland?
Yes.
Okay. Is there an email or something can you just contact me at the office?
Sure.
Send me an email or a call, just so I got a contact number for you?
Sure.
Give me some time to go do some research, just find out what the powers are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I was told to go to Albany, to talk to them. But I just don't have the ability to, the legal you know, phraseology and the way that it needs to be discussed as far as how they, I'm not into politics, so I don't understand how they govern these laws and how they.
I don't either, but I can do some research as far as municipality. Let me start there.
It's not what you know, so you know.
Okay, fine.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thanks. Anybody else want to make a comment for the public? Okay, good. Let's move on to trustee updates. Trustee Herzog, anything else you want to comment on?
Just a couple of quick things. As part of the Shade Tree topic that we addressed, that we were talking about before, I wanted to bring up a couple of things. First, that we will be meeting in March, and that meeting in March will be set to accomplish two things. First, to work with the village to hopefully plan to make a proclamation designating April 30th as Arbor Day, and that we will be taking steps to celebrate it in some fashion.
Good.
Okay, because that's part of how we remain a tree city, is by making sure that we make the proclamation. And also, it's part of the Shade Tree Commission's objective to be able to advise the village on what kind of things we can, what kind of trees to plant, where should we plant, et cetera, et cetera. So if we have a meeting in March, we can start to make plans not only for Arbor Day, which is April 30th, but also how we're going to be doing plantings going forward this spring.
We typically plant a tree somewhere in the village, right?
Yes.
And we use village money, the money that's in the tree fund?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
We have a line item that is.
Nobody donates anything for that.
They can, and people have in the past, which we've done. We've had people donate money and then use the Shade Tree Commission to be able to then actually plant the trees, purchase the trees and plant in different places.
Right.
Some of it quite substantial, I think, in the past 8 years since I've been involved. We've had as much as close to $20,000 to $25,000 worth of donations that have gone strictly for just planting trees as part of our village tree planting project and other things. So that's something we're going to be doing.
We get a school involved also.
Oh, okay, good.
We generally try to plant one in the neighborhood around Elm Drive so that we can bring the kids out from not only the elementary school, but also from potentially the daycare center up at both sides of the churches on both sides.
Okay, fine.
So that's going to get done. And just wanted to remind that we do have positions open for people of interest in the village, residents who may want to join the Shade Tree Commission, which it can be up to 5 people, and we've got 2 at-large positions that are vacant at the moment, so anybody who might want to join is welcome to send in a letter of interest. That's the Shade Tree Commission. Oh, yes, and finally, just as from a personal note, the Boy Scouts, the Scoutmaster Ed Olson is in serious condition in the hospital here at Fall, and I wanted the residents from the town and the village to be aware of it so that they can keep him in their thoughts and prayers. He's been Scoutmaster for more than 30 years, and this is something that's quite serious. So we want to try to hope that he'll come out of it stronger than as going on right now.
Good.
So a request for everybody to do that.
Very nice. Thanks, Mark. Peter, anything you want to talk about? Go ahead. Okay, I've got 2 things. One of them is Vicky, trustee, Deputy Mayor Contino is working on a submission to FEMA to get reimbursement for the, looks like a total of $5,000 of things we've spent on COVID-related charges.
I just, before I got here, set up the grant portal, all that stuff, so it's now in transition, so.
Good.
So
what that means is, by the way, if we have any additional charges that we can bill towards COVID, that we should add them to the list, and we can pursue 100% reimbursement from FEMA for that.
Correct.
Just so I know that's the cut. The last thing I have is a notice of an open house here on the 25th of February, Friday, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., where the town of Washington is having an open house to discuss hospitality uses within the town to update their comprehensive plan. open to the public. It's gonna come in, walk through, show and tell, question and answers with a variety of people on board, including both public. So that's open. We're gonna put that notice in our website. I'll reference it in the newsletter, just as it has everybody to spend some time between 7 p.m. and 25th of February, come by and see what's going on with the company. Any other questions or comments from the meeting? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that.
And a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Have a good evening.
If you want to.
Yeah, I look over that stuff.
Okay, good, sign.
I wasn't sure where to sign, so it was,